Hi guys, thanks for joining us. Every half term we devote our focus to a particular area of Catholic social teaching. And every half term that area of Catholic social teaching has a saint associated with it. Someone who we feel really embodies that theme and helps us to understand how we can live that theme out in our daily lives. This half term our focus is on solidarity. And the saint that we have chosen for solidarity is a guy called Blessed Jerzy Popiełuszko. I've probably said his name wrong, but he's a phenomenal man. And here's 5 things you need to know about Blessed Jerzy. So Jerzy was born in 1947, just after the end of the Second World War in Poland. Now, at the time, Poland was part of communist Russia. It was an area that was occupied by the Russian government, and for a long time, the people in Poland desired freedom. They wanted to be able to rule themselves, to be independent. And this was the world that Jerzy grew up in. He wanted to be a priest from an early age. And when he did his military service, the government and the army tried to convince him that that wasn't the right thing to do. They didn't like people being priests. But Jerzy persisted, Jerzy became a priest, and Jerzy's life was set from there. Number 2. So after being ordained in 1972, Jerzy very quickly became connected with a group called Solidarity. And Solidarity were an independent trade union organization in Poland. They campaigned for workers' rights, which under a communist regime were they weren't great. Let's just say that. Jerzy used to celebrate Mass for this community, used to speak on their behalf, and eventually Jerzy began to celebrate a monthly Mass for the freedom and independence of Poland. Number 3. Now, Jerzy could have used his position to be angry and aggressive against the government, but he recognized that this wasn't the right thing to do. He believed passionately in speaking the truth, even if that meant that he was in danger. Speaking the truth was the most important thing. But he also believed in standing up for other people. So Jerzy, rather than being angry and aggressive, used his sermons to preach on love, on hope, on the great victory of the cross over suffering and evil, and on standing in solidarity with those people who were being persecuted and mistreated by the government. Number 4, because of how powerful his sermons were, and because of his constant message of love and hope, he became a symbol of hope for people in Poland. He became a symbol of hope for people who wanted an end to the communist regime and to have independence. He became someone who people looked to for advice and support, and this made him a threat to the government. The government had him arrested, had him followed, his home was bombed, and they hoped that this would put him off, but it didn't. He responded to Jesus' call in Matthew's Gospel, when Jesus calls us to serve others, and so he devoted time to visiting those in prison, standing alongside those who were on trial, organizing care for those who were sick, and helping to feed the hungry. Jerzy was a real example of what it means to live in solidarity with those less fortunate than ourselves. Number 5. Sadly, in October 1984, he was abducted by people working for the Secret Service. He was beaten, tortured, and eventually he was tied up and thrown into a reservoir where he drowned. The members of the Russian Secret Service who did this were arrested and sent to prison. But Jerzy's example became a real symbol of hope for the people of Poland. Hundreds of thousands of people attended his funeral. And alongside John Paul II, he became someone who inspired the Polish people in their fight for independence and freedom. In 2010, he was named as a martyr, someone who died for the faith. And the journey to sainthood is one that is still being actively pursued by a huge number of people, greatly inspired by his life and his life story. When we think about solidarity, it's really important for us to recognize those people who need our support, who need us to stand alongside them. Jerzy is an incredible example of this, someone who knew that speaking out and living in solidarity with people would be dangerous, difficult, and that ultimately led to his death. But he didn't allow people to stop him. He knew that what he was doing was what Jesus calls all of us to do, to serve those less fortunate than ourselves, to stand alongside them, to be a symbol of love and hope for those who feel that they are apart and away from love and hope. Jerzy is a phenomenal example for us to follow. And so this half term, I encourage you to maybe read a little bit more about his life, but see what you can take from his life story and how you can be in solidarity with other people in the way that Jerzy was to the people he ministered to. See you again soon. Goodbye.